Hello people of YouTube, and today I'm going to be taking a look at another Baiwei figure, that being the Baiwei SPOCK. Now, after the absolute banger that was the Baiwei Sentinel Prime, I decided to take a look at more of their stuff, and this is another one of their stuff. A quote-unquote reissue of the Transformers Studio Series Leader Class Shockwave, you didn't know? Not only is that figure very expensive, but it's also really hard to find now. Hence why this figure is a blessing for people like me who missed the chance on that original figure. I thought Baiwei Sentinel Prime was amazing and I jumped my chance on this guy, and why don't we take a closer look at his packaging. Also, I'm sure you don't need an explanation on who Shockwave is, right? After all, it's only logical for you to know who Shockwave is, even if you are just a smidge of a Transformers fan. But this third-party name though. This figure is named Spock because the original G1 Shockwave was actually based on the Star Trek character of the same name. That's a pretty cool detail there, Baiwei, good job. And unfortunately, unlike the Sentinel Prime, we do not get a window view for the figure on the front there. It's merely a CGI render of the Dark of the Moon Shockwave, but that's still pretty cool. On this side, you get a emptiness. On the back, you can see it's the same thing. Really? Not even a product shot? Okay. On this side, you get emptiness. At the top, you get total emptiness. I mean, this figure is pretty cheap, so I shouldn't really expect that much from the packaging, right? And at the bottom you get... Before we start, a huge shout out to my dad who bought this for me. It's usually my mom who bought my figures for me. I'm sorry, I'm just a teen, I don't have my own money. But this time my dad kindly offered me to buy this figure, so yeah, thanks Dad. And why don't we just crack this figure open? I'm so excited. And here's Spock, aka Shockwave, out of his packaging. Oh my goodness, Baiwei just keeps on killing it. I absolutely love this thing. Do I like it more than Supreme Leader? Well, let's just say that this is a better action figure, while Supreme Leader is a better Transformer. Talk more about that later. And now let's just get straight into his... I would get into his accessories, but what this guy comes with are more like necessary add-ons. So I'll just get straight into his details and you'll find out. And comparing Spock / Shockwave here to some renders from Dark of the Moon, I gotta say they almost 100% nailed it, except for one glaring issue: the colors. Baiwei decided to repaint this guy to look more purple, which I guess is supposed to resemble his G1 self more. And I gotta admit, the color here does look pretty okay. I wasn't a big fan of it, but after getting this figure, it's not that big of a problem for me now. Still undeniable that this is not movie accurate, because you see, the original Studio Series figure that this is based upon did have a more accurate purple color scheme, but Baiwei decided to change it. Really not a big deal. I mean, if anything, this color change looks cool, but yeah, just something worth pointing out. I mean, other than the colors though, this figure looks almost perfect. Just look at it. Every single little spike details are captured in here really nicely. The fact that this character never transformed in the film definitely helped this robot mode, but the alt mode is... we'll get to it later. Head sculpt is fantastic, looks exactly like the movie character. And I just really like this design in general. It's one of the more faithful Michael Bay designs, actually. I mean, of course, G1 Shockwave didn't have a ribcage or a massive cannon or a arm blade. But comparing Shockwaves to something like whatever this is, I'm definitely quite grateful for this design. Arm cannon is a little overcompensating for something, but that looks incredibly badass in my opinion. And this hose, nozzle, cable, whatever thingy is one of the few accessories that came packed in with this figure, but again, it is mandatory to complete this design, so I'm not covering it separately. And attaching it to the figure itself is super simple. Just plug one end into here and another end into here. And another accessory would be this arm blade, and that looks really nice. I believe in the original figure this is made out of soft rubbery material, and this is not. This is solid plastic, and that's a nice change. You can attach it under or on the side of the forearm, but this is more for the transformation, so I'll just keep it where it should be. Even the back on this figure looks really nice, aside from the slightly inaccurate tread details on the calves. That was only the sculpt, and I haven't even talked about the paint, which is oh so nice. Again, the colors aren't accurate to the movie, but you get this nice dry brushing effect throughout the entire figure. Reminds me a lot of the Age of Extinction Grimlock from Studio Series, and it works just as well here. And even the barrel of this cannon has some nice dry brushing in it, if it would focus. There you go. Just like the Baiwei Supreme Leader, this figure feels quite nice, but not as nice as Supreme Leader, I would say. Mostly because of this gigantic view cannon. But even then, yeah, I'd recommend to not display this figure with his arms like this, just so that it doesn't wear out over time. And also, just like Supreme Leader, this figure has some die-cast metal parts, which includes these knee pads, and I think that's it. Very random die-cast placements, but it's good, I guess. What's also good, if not more so, would be his posability. Oh, I love this part. First off, the head. It is on a tiny ball joint that is a bit scary, not gonna lie, and it is kind of loose. But you get so much range due to this hinge joint here. He can look all over the place, and it makes posing him so much more fun than if it was just on a ball joint. The perks of the transformation. Both shoulders can rotate 360, but this one is kind of hindered by the hose. Both shoulders move out that far. Bicep swivel on both. Elbow bend on both. It's hard to find the hitch. Here we go. A cool little detail on this arm is that you can see this miscellaneous black spike here. That's actually a thumb. And it's on a hinge joint. Nothing on the barrel unless you count this as like a pumping action or something. But on this side you do get a wrist swivel, which I'll just remove the blade for a second, and there you go. Hinge joint here as well. And one of my favorite parts, surprisingly, is that he has individually articulated fingers. They're all on ball joints at the base, and you can move them all over the place. I love that. You can even do the funny. Nothing at the waist due to the transformation, and it surprisingly really doesn't bother me that much. Hips can go forward that far, back that far. Pretty good split. Thigh rotation. Single jointed knee that bends in quite a bit, and this knee pad moves to accommodate it. And finally, the amazing ankles. Move down that far, up that far. Great ankle pivot. So what else can I say other than the fact that this figure is amazing and that it is huge? Size comparisons. And here's too big for my review station Shockwave next to Bumblebee movie Starscream, Bumblebee movie Soundwave, and oh boy, I'm in Decepticon heaven right now. Really just needs a Megatron, don't you think? Comparing him to a regular 6-inch scale figure, we have the Marvel Legends Mr. Knight. And finally, another Baiwei figure and another Dark of the Moon villain, the Baiwei Supreme Leader, also known as the Transformers Studio Series Voyager Class Dark of the Moon Sentinel Prime. These two look so freaking epic next to each other. How the hell is Optimus able to defeat these two? Plot armor, that's how. Now that the good stuff are out of the way, we shall talk about things that I don't like about this figure. The transformation and the alternate mode. And for the first time in one of these fully fledged reviews, I will walk you through the transformation because there are really some things you have to watch out for. Alright, so here's Shockwave. First thing you want to do is to remove the accessories, the blade, and also the hoses, only from the cannon port. Yeah. Oh, that's a bit hard. Now what you want to do is take it to the back of his feet, flip up whatever these are, and on this side as well. Bend this piece like this, and bend this one like this. Same thing on this side. And now you want to straighten the feet like so. This side as well. Detach the arms from these tabs. This arm as well. Unravel the whole backpack, and this is where things go to shit. Extend the legs on these double hinge joints, and this is the worst part of it because they are so thin. Look at that. Look at how thin that thing is. If you're not careful, I'm sure that thing will snap. Then you want to take it to the head and straighten it out like so. And here's the main reason why I walk you through this transformation is because you want to hold in this particular piece here. You want to rotate the legs up to here, and you don't want to do that whilst holding the crotch piece. That'll only flex the plastic, and this joint is so tight it can rip it. And yeah, hold it like so and rotate the legs upward. This little tab here will snap into this peg hole here. Snap. That's the configuration you want it to be in, and let's do the same thing on this side. And now flip it around. You want to unravel the backpack even more. Gosh, it even has dry brushing here. This little knob of a peg will plug into this little itty bitty hole right here. There you go, if you can see that now. Just a pro tip, you want to configure the hinge joint into something like this, and it doesn't snap it. This transformation is so annoying. There's the knob there, and it just plugs in. There you go. Now on to another one of my least favorite parts. So the cannon and the arms are supposed to be hinged down like this, and you want to rotate the claw side this way so that this tab, oh wait a minute, where's the tab? it freaking snapped off. The connection initially was just way too tight, and I had no idea when this snapped off, and I'm pretty upset about it. So for me, I'm just gonna leave it there and yeah, hope for the best. This side is actually even worse, even though it's not snapped off. This is the hole you want to peg this clip into, and it's so hard to configure. I think I got it in. Yep, seems good. No! There you go. These two tabs on the thrusters are gonna peg into these two peg holes. This can so easily unalign the arms, and it's just annoying. I'm so sorry I had to do it off camera, but there you go, you can see how it looks now. And finally, for some finishing touches, you want to feed this hose here through the treads, and this peg here is gonna snap into this hole. It's a tight fit, so just be careful not to break it. Finally, you want to plug the blade into this peg hole. There you go, here's Shockwave in his whatever mode. And here's Shockwave in his tank mode. I mean, I can kind of see it being a tank compared to other Cybertronian tanks, and yeah, this looks way inferior. Can't even roll that great. They obviously prioritized the robot mode, which I have no problem with, admittedly. And also worth pointing out that Shockwave didn't actually transform in Dark of the Moon, so we don't actually know what alt mode is gonna be, which kind of makes this stupid thing justified, but I mean, it's still ugly. Like, I can see the turret and maybe the treads, but other than that, that's it. One thing I kind of like to do is to mistransform it and bring this arm upwards so that I can pretend it's some sort of Cybertronian construction vehicle and that can scoop things and whatever. Which I gotta admit, is actually kind of cool. I actually prefer this. Or you can do this and call it a Scorpion tank mode or something. I mean, if you're gonna be wacky, go all the way, right? One kind of neat thing though is that these thrusters are on hinge joints and they are blast effect compatible, so you can have some fun with that. So yeah, tank mode, not really the greatest, but it is still pretty big, and you can see how big it is during these size comparison shots. And here's stupid Shockwave next to Starscream, which looks much better. Soundwave, which is actually worse, both the alt mode itself and the transformation. Mr. Knight. And finally, Supreme Leader, aka Sentinel Prime. You can see the point that I made earlier of this being a better action figure and this being a better transformer. The transformation for this guy was just a lot more pleasant despite it being more complex. And the resulting alt mode is awesome. Look at this compared to whatever this is. So I don't think it's gonna be worth doing a strike a pose segment. Just know that he is extremely poseable despite not having a waist swivel, and you can get him into pretty much every pose you want. And for the most part, I think this figure is pretty darn incredible. Hasbro originally already did a bang up job on this guy, and Baiwei only amplified it with the amount of paint and this articulated hand. Transformation and the alt mode aren't great, but as Shockwave didn't transform in Dark of the Moon, I am able to forgive that. He's just such a cool display piece to look at, and he's pretty big. Whew, man, I absolutely recommend getting this figure, or any version of the mold if you don't have it already, especially if you are a fan of the Baiverse. And I do hope that you are all fans of my review and would recommend it to everyone else. If you've enjoyed it, please do leave a like and a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. And finally, we come to the reason on why I've been testing all these Baiwei figures.